Keisha Bisram, and you're listening to the Every Shade podcast. My next guest is Shivangi Jain. Shivangi Jain is an award-winning director who has worked in New York, Los Angeles, New Delhi, and Mumbai. She completed her master's in mass communication from AJK Mass Communication Research Center and an MFA in cinema direction from Boston University. She has worked with organizations such as J. Walter Thompson, GoodWeave International, Incredible India, and more. Shivangi directed The Christmas Party, a short film produced by a mostly female of color crew. The Christmas Party has won many awards in film festivals from around the world. The short film is about a man's conflict dealing with a moral and social dilemma. When an unexpected guest arrives at the party, the protagonist has an internal struggle and becomes more apparent when the party-goer's judgment pressures him to make a decision on the situation.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, my love, how are you?
How are you doing? How's everything in India?
I am okay. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
India is a mess right now, so I wouldn't really comment on that. That's a different story altogether. Your hair's grown. Your hair's grown.
Yeah, it's getting long. I'm growing it out. It's
Yeah,
like,
I like the new look with the glasses and stuff.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna keep growing it out. I'm actually gonna get a haircut soon because I was growing it out from my short hair. But so right now there's like no shape to it. It's just really flat.
Right.
You know? So
Right.
I'm getting a haircut soon. Just to give it a bit of shape.
Right.
A COVID conscious haircut.
Right. Correct. I really liked your look during the dark brown series. The series that you were doing, the super funny thing that you were doing.
Yeah,
I really liked the look. Yeah. It
yeah.
was pretty fun.
Thank you. Yeah. That's like my hair was in a good stage because I think the layers were coming out so nicely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So now
the best
Sorry?
the best the ideal expectation version of you was like, oh my god. I was like, wow, that is like so perfect.
It was so perfect. But now those layers are just kind of they're getting lost. But I mean anyways, thank you for doing this interview with me.
My pleasure.
I'm super excited because I started with a dark brown channel. I was doing Simple Life with Tammy, but that launched right when quarantine happened, and ideally at first me and Frank were like, oh my god, this is so perfect, we have all the time in the world to like shoot and do this and do that. But I think the energy from COVID really brought us down, and we were also homesick. We had friends and family on the East Coast, and we were just so worried all the time.
Because you had just moved to LA, right? That was the time wow, such a big change, right?
Yeah, it's like we went through like this big life change, and then COVID happened at the same time, and it was not a good combination. It was awful.
I know.
So we actually took a break from filming, and him and I both got sick. Not COVID sick. We got like, I guess, sick from different reasons. And then afterwards, we had productions that we were gonna shoot, but then they all got canceled. So then I was like, what am I gonna do with my channel? Because I really, really want to do something, but I don't know what. Now I was lost of ideas, and then I thought, you know what? Like, I know so many people, so many creatives and so many artists who've started their own thing or produced their own thing or started their own companies and things like that.
Right.
I'm like, why don't I just interview them? Because I know what they're doing, but deeply, like, I don't know what they're doing. You know? So it's like, I think it's a good way for me to learn from other people and like my friends,
Right. Definitely. Definitely.
That's how I started Every Shade, because I just started reaching out to people that I knew that created their own work and started questioning their work and stuff like that. And so far it's been a fun experience. And now I can ask you questions. So I guess the first thing I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna ask you like some like basic questions, and then like obviously delve into it a little bit more. So like talk to me about what? Yes. I
didn't know we were recording already. I just
no. Don't worry about all that stuff. That stuff like I'm gonna like edit out.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking about coronavirus. Like, don't worry about, or my hair. Like, we're gonna take that out.
That's a fun bit, though. I hope you get to include that
I
somewhere.
might. Yeah, I might.
Yeah,
I think there's
some
something.
bloopers.
So yeah. So let's talk about Christmas party. I guess starting from the very beginning, like how did this production come to be, and when did you produce it, or when did you start write? Did you write Christmas party?
No. So I uh, I did the Christmas party as a part of my thesis program at BU at Boston University. So there I worked with this writer who came up with this piece. Actually, I picked the uh, the particular piece that had been written by a screenwriting major uh, graduate, and I really liked it. I was actually trying to figure out a, a story that spoke to me. So I was speaking with various screenwriters. I was brainstorming. I was looking at various texts for adaptation purposes. But I came across this little concept note written by this writer, and it really struck me. It really spoke to me, and that's when I sat down with him, and he showed me the first few drafts of how he'd gone about. His name is Joe Hemphill. He We went about the characters and what spoke to me the most, and we spoke about various films that we had watched, and I could just see how greatly the two of us we resonated, and I feel like that's very important for a director and a writer to be on the same level and resonate. um, I mean, two people can be great friends, a writer and director could be great friends, but when it comes down to actually working on a thing, I mean, it just could go haywire. So it's very important. So I think I had that level of connection with my writer, and after a couple of changes in the scripts, in a couple of drafts, we went about we finalized the script that eventually went on the floors. So that's how I went about the Christmas party. And I actually chose this particular piece because uh, the Christmas party actually was just a working title name. It was from the very beginning, and eventually that's what came out of it. So we just thought that we promoted it enough, and people knew about the Christmas party film. Okay, it's the Christmas party film. So I was like, if I change the name, then it's going to take away from all the emotion that it's created. So I'm sorry. What was your question?
It's totally okay. If you go off on a tangent, that's actually even better for me because I love to hear all the information and like how.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like I want to know, I guess, like the process of like how this came
Okay.
to be and like why, and like you even mentioned that this piece spoke to you, and like my next question was going to be like why, so delving into it further is totally fine.
Right. That's why I stopped, because I was like, I don't think that's what she asked
Yeah,
me, so I
I
should
mean,
make sure.
yeah, I don't want like a basic like overlay of like what's going on. Like if you're gonna go deeper, like that's even better.
Awesome. Then you have me. You had me at deeper. So yeah, I mean, what spoke to me about this project was I for a long time I always aspired to do something about the internal conflict. So that's been one concept that still speaks to me the most. um, how performative we get in various settings, how we react to various situations when we are placed in a high tension situation, or where the stakes are very high. We sometimes as individuals we feel like we understand ourselves, and we feel like, okay, this is how I am, and I'm this bold ass person, and if if there comes a difficult situation, that's how I'm gonna act. But that's not how it is. We don't really know who we are or who a person is, and that keeps fluctuating, that keeps changing. So uh, we are all very fluid and we are all very fragile. So I really wanted to explore that was missing in the other texts that I was looking at, and somehow in the Christmas party I found that. I found this story about a guy who is dealing with this moral conflict in this. He's dealing with this tension where one must choose what's superficial and what's real to them, and it's very hard because a lot many times we feel that uh, this is what is actually important to us, and in a very white and black manner, we tend to segregate things. We tend to bifurcate stuff, thinking that okay, yeah, this is important to me. This isn't. But it's very, that line is is very thin. It's an invisible line. Sometimes the thing that actually is imperative, the thing that actually is very significant to us the is something that we won't really address, is something that we won't really bring out or accept. So the story is all about that, and that's what really spoke to me.
Mm-hmm. Is the Christmas party in film festivals right now?
uh, a couple of more film festivals, but it's done its share of film festivals.
Okay.
Like, it's been in the film. Yeah.
Are you able to talk about the plot of the film?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you talk more about I guess what the Christmas party is about, and you as a director, I know so many directors have so many different styles and different ways of working with actors. I would like to know, like, what was the experience like working with actors and aiming for this internal conflict? What was the challenge there? So I guess we can answer like both questions, or so both questions.
I know. I've directed you, Keisha. So
Yeah. I mean, I know, but the people that are listening,
don't know. Yeah. So so the film is about Pete. Pete is our protagonist, and um, uh, Pete belongs to this rich, affluent class of people uh, in America, and this person, they're supposed to host in their community, in this affluent community that they belong to, in this uh, very high profile elite, I'd say, uh, 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 community that they belong to. They have this annual Christmas party that they host, that one of the families in the community hosts. This time it's happening at Pete's party. So the stakes are high. It's about Pete and Marjorie. They are throwing this Christmas party for the kind of people who are very conscious of their social recognition in the society. It's very superficial. It's almost plastic, but it's their way of celebrating the thing. So Pete is the host, and the party is disrupted by this person who enters the party unannounced, uninvited, and is actually somebody who uh, the community hates. They absolutely loathes him. He's an outcast. He's done some bad stuff, which has hurt the members of the community. But the main thing that draws him here to this party is that he shares a relationship with the host, with Pete. So this person who stirred conversations and raised many eyebrows at the party is actually Pete's friend. So now Pete has to deal with the dilemma of whether to acknowledge whatever rest is left of his friendship with the person, with the stranger who's just entered, or to just appease his guests and just break all ties and chuck him out.
Yeah, yeah. Did you I saw that it's an all-female production, correct?
Not all, but mostly,
Mostly?
yeah.
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 Can you talk about like how did that come to be? Is that because you said it was part of a thesis. Did that happen naturally, or was that a choice, or?
Both. I'd
Okay.
say both. When we were going about the production of this film, we had, I'd say, almost 75% of the crew was female, and that too of color. That's also very, very important because, and that too in the primary most positions. I am an Indian woman. My DP is a Chinese woman. My producer is African American. Then from Steadicam operator to the music composer to the sound mixer to uh, I don't know grips and electrics to everything. It was all this mixed bag, and it was just so, it was very interesting actually, because I felt that it was actually all the more interesting because it was my first big production in the States. And there too I wasn't collaborating with another American, like the biggest relationship. Of course I collaborated with an American who was a writer, but um, uh, uh, the communication between a director and a DP is supposed to be epic. It's supposed to be, the best in the world. It has to just flow so seamlessly and so naturally. And what was important was that Shu, who's my cinematographer for the Christmas party, and Jasmine too, we were all, the three of us, we were coming from three very, very, very different, very distinctive backgrounds. I've been born and brought up in India. Shu has been born and brought up in China, and Jasmine, the producer, she was from Atlanta. So the way we went about producing this film was very interesting because we were three completely different personalities with three different hopes for the future, uh, and three different things that we wanted out of this project, and a lot many ideas, creativity, I don't know, tricks that blended in. So that was very, very interesting. So I think that all of that sort of came together when we were producing this film, because everybody was like, aesthetically, maybe my some of my fellow members had a better exposure to light, or to frame that. So I think that aesthetical difference also sort of flew in, and I really, really enjoyed that process. It was really thrilling.
Yeah, I have a question about the production part of it, but I want to get back to it. I think what I want to ask is because you mentioned that that there were women from different backgrounds and you guys are holding like higher positions. And I find it interesting that the story is about an outcast, essentially. Did you guys find yourselves in the piece? Meaning, like, was there any
Definitely,
sort of like parallels? Yeah. Can you talk more about that?
definitely, I did, and which also reminds me a very interesting anecdote that I have to share with you. Uh, um Definitely, like I felt that the way that we composed a lot of shots, the way that we went about the production design, and especially the cinematography angle of things, we were able to explore. We were able to push our boundaries to explore the best possible way to communicate uh, uh, things with lesser words, with lesser use of words, um, because we felt it. We felt that that kind of aloof treatment that people sort of get when they're new to a place, when they're when they don't feel that they belong. So I think definitely that's subconsciously fluent. So what I wanted to tell you about this funny anecdote was that there was a friend, after I was sharing some stuff about the film, and that the friend is actually a screenwriter friend, and the person was like, why I was telling him in a very proud, boastful manner. I was like, oh, all my crew, most of my crew was uh, women, and it was so much fun, and we were all having playing different parts, and it was so crazy. And he just goes, why, if you were all women, why did you make a film with two guys? Like, the protagonist is a man, and most characters in the film are male. So how do you think, like, how could you justify that? How could you possibly justify that? And I was like, i was so I was so offended by that question. And I was like, for like since centuries, men have been making films about women's plights and whatever goes on in women's heads with women protagonists and everything. And what makes you think that we would not be able to understand what goes the internal conflict? I wouldn't be able to solve the internal conflict of a man. I was like, wow, that's so lame. So that was that was very, very funny. That was like, I was like, you should just stop writing. You shouldn't write anymore.
I find that such an interesting point of view, because I did notice that too. Like when you showed me a Christmas Party, I saw that like on the poster it was a white male, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And obviously that thought goes into your head, but I think that's not a good way of thinking, because we shouldn't think that, oh, because you're a female director or female writer or female this and that you should only do female driven stories. I think
Right.
there's a push for female driven stories, but that doesn't mean that because you're a female director that you only should direct female
Right.
female protagonist and antagonist driven stories. I think it's more than that, like you have the ability to do what men have been doing, what white men have been doing for many years.
Right. Right.
But it is interesting that it is a female driven production that's telling a story about two men, because I feel like I can only imagine that a different story is being told versus when a man tells it,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Did you guys I mean, I do want to talk more about that too, because I do find that very interesting. Did you guys like face any challenges about telling it from like a male's point of view, or did you even see it that way? Like how?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Honestly, Kish, I did not. I mean, it was only when this guy, he asked me, he popped this question up, and this was also when I had done a limited release for my film. He just watched it, and that's when he was talking to me about it. And I was like, I really did not think about it. I never thought about it from a racial perspective, or from coming from a completely different geographical background perspective, or uh, from a gender perspective. I never thought about it that way.
Mm.
And when I worked with my actors, I felt like there was a lot of respect that went in. I was working with SAG AFTRA actors, so they were pretty, you know, uh, amazing actors actually. And I I don't feel that they ever let me feel that I wasn't on the same wavelength as them. Like all the conversations that I had with my actors, that we had as a team, it was all very uh, natural and organic. So yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. That's incredible, because I just feel like at the end of the day, it's really about the internal conflict that you're talking about.
True.
And it's not really about a story about a man or a white
True.
man.
True.
It's about
True.
something else.
True. I mean, that's how I definitely saw it. There were things that um, sort of blended in. Let's say in this film we have this element of baseball. Uh, this what do you call it? What's the term for it? This element that we keep using. It's of baseball, and I have never seen a baseball match ever in my life. We don't have baseball here in India. I don't know anything about that. But then I researched about it. I sat down with my actors or my writer to have a deeper understanding of it. Although uh, it wasn't as required, but I felt like to my process it was, because I just wanted to have that connect uh, with whatever elements I use in my film. So that was something that happened, that wasn't in the story originally, that wasn't in the script originally, but that happened as a part of uh, my directorial process, where I felt like, okay, we need this now I'm going to use those terms, this manly white element to bring in that connect. But I think that came with my understanding of it. That didn't derive from me not being a white male or whatever. So I never thought about it. Like
Yeah.
whatever those things were, they eventually came in. They eventually flowed in. So yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go back to talking about the production itself, because you mentioned that this is your first American production, correct?
Yes, I did some smaller projects
Yeah.
before that, but yeah.
Have you done in a production at this level in India?
Not as a director, no.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, my next question was like, what was the difference between like working with this team versus like any other team that you've had worked before?
Yeah, so definitely I've produced stuff or I've DP'd stuff at, I'd say, at a similar level, but I think definitely the Christmas party was the biggest production that I had ever been a part of, and held such a position. So I don't know how much justification I'll be able to do to that question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, about the difference, but funnily enough, I get that I get that a lot many people ask me that question. Here, they're everywhere. Like here,
Yeah.
everybody's like, how, what's it like there? And i I really don't know. It's funny because I really don't know how to answer that question, because when I am here, um I'm able to work here. When I was there, I was able to work there. Like, I think it's about the kind of person that you are. And production is all about being a quick learner, being understanding the terms. I
Mm-hmm.
know, I am aware that there are specific terms which are different. Let's say, in America we have various slangs for various things. uh, uh, like there are various slangs for certain things, and we'd have various slangs here. So those are the things that we have to sort of get accustomed to. That's about it.
I also feel like you're a very adaptable person. So
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
you're finding the differences. You probably don't even notice it so strongly versus like most
true.
people. So I feel like you probably,
That's
probably
why
goes over your
that's
head.
why it's been so hard for me to answer that question. Every time somebody answers me, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it is a fascinating thing to ask, because I mean, obviously, growing up in America, like you know a lot about Hollywood and how production, or what Hollywood
Right,
production's about. And I also grew up on Bollywood as well, so it's like understanding that nature. But then as I gotten older, like things have changed in the film industry for both sides of the world, from pretty much everywhere.
true.
So it's like I am fascinated at how, because I don't live in India, I don't see it, but I am fascinated at how things in the film industry have changed in India as
Right.
well. So I'm always curious of like what is, I guess, what's the experience like, but obviously if you don't.
But I'll be able to answer that briefly. The If we're talking about the shift that has happened, that's dramatic, because the Bollywood that that people know about, the Bollywood that people speak about, the larger than life celebration, the all of that glamour, the dances, and all of those things sort of blending in. It's changed drastically during these times because people are now more focused on good writing. It's all about good writing now. So so the scales have gotten smaller. The magnanimous nature of the sets and the dances and everything, that's all gotten smaller. There are uh, uh, really good stories and told in a very, very natural, very organic, very simple, subtle manner. So which I don't know if it reaches the audience sitting abroad or not, but see, that's also the thing. The bigger banner films, the films that are made using uh, crores and crores, millions and billions of budgets,
Yeah.
they tend to reach you guys. And though they are inherently commercial, those are like the Avengers, those are like the Wonder Woman Avengers, or Mission Impossibles of our world. But films like Little Bird or Florida Project and stuff, those kind of films are made here in a large quantity now, and web series too. So I don't know if those get to reach you as.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only aware of them because I actively seek them.
You dig them.
But I don't know. I can't speak for that either. I don't know. I can't speak if it is reaching over here. But I think there is awareness that something is changing. So for the Christmas party, I mean, you had a pretty great experience working with that kind of production team, and with SAG-AFTRA actors and stuff. Was there something that like you learned for yourself as a director when you were working on that set?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The thing, I think, when people watch the Christmas party, whether or not it's a good film or a bad film, it's a great film or whatever it is, or whatever your opinion of the film is, I feel like I learned so much during the filming, the pre-production, the production, and the post. Like, making the film was a great uh, uh, a great realization for me. It was almost eye-opening. Like, I learned so much working on the sets of the Christmas party that uh, um, wait, it's a very intense question actually. So I'm like trying to think hard about it.
If you need if you need a second to think and to develop
Yeah.
I'd say I totally take it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to frame the sentences all. I just feel like I learned so much uh, while we were at this film. The biggest thing that I learned out of this film was teamwork and communication. I just understood that communication is the key. I always used to think it's just one thing that people tend to say. It's like it's just something which is just written on the billboards or everywhere, and on quotes pages and stuff, or on Instagram. Communication is the key. Uh, but it really is. That's what I learned. Um, we had a really big crew when we were filming the Christmas party. The shoot went on for 5 days, and there was approximately a cast and crew of 50 people every day on set, 40 to 50 people, and everybody would just run to me for whatever questions that they had. So I had to be mentally prepared to answer all of those questions and hope to not screw it up. so so if there were decisions being made like every second, and I had to communicate it with my first AD, but then the sound person would come to me and I would tell them something, okay, and then as it turns out, my cinematographer decided to do something else, and then I'm like, oh, what is happening? And then, there were just so many things, and I just made it very clear to each and everybody. I established, there was a little ruckus in the beginning of the shoot. There was a little because most of the crew were students. I mean, it was their project too, but they were still students at the end of the day. So they were there. There wasn't as great professional streak in them. No, I wouldn't. I I'm gonna take that back. They were extremely, extremely professional, but it's just that as students, you still have your egos, or you still have various things. Um, Whereas on real set, you won't really have that. You know that you're there to do your job and then just bounce. That's your job. So there were a lot many times that things like that happened, also because we weren't no none of us, we were used to handling such a large group of extras. So if we had like 20 group of extras, and you know how extras are, I mean, even like three extra people are like too many. And my film had like a lot of food, a lot of decor and everything, so they were all, you know all over the place, and it was very difficult to sort of manage them and keep them at one section of the house that we were shooting at. So I mean, there was food, and then they were just, sort of lingering around or watching or laughing, and we were like, so it was very difficult for us as students to sort of control that. It was very difficult. Like, I had extras walk to me while I was in the middle of doing this final rehearsal for a very important scene with my primary actors, and I had this extra sort of walk to me, and the extra is like, hey, is it fine if my tie has a little stain on it, so is it fine if it's there, or do you and I was like, can somebody like tell him that it's okay? I told him, I was like, yeah, it's completely fine, we won't get to see that. We only get to see his back during the whole film. so, so it was very funny. uh, so sort of orchestrating that, I'd say, was a big challenge. And what came out of it was that the communication has to be very crisp and very it has to be updated. Don't think that, okay, you said something to your AD 15 minutes ago. You have to check, like, the AD has to check, you have to check with your cinematographer, you have to check with your actors, producer. Like, it was very mentally draining too. You have to just talk all the time. Communication exhausted me, but it was definitely very fulfilling by the end of the day. That's what was my biggest takeaway from this.
Yeah. How many days did you guys shoot?
5 days.
For how long per day?
12 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty packed
Uh,
production. I mean, all the same.
No, actually, these actors were SAG actors, so we had this thing that I'm forgetting it. It was that if we exceeded these many number of hours, we were supposed to pay them extra, and also give them another meal. And as a student budgeted film, we couldn't really afford that, uh, because exceeding the time limit meant that feeding those 50 people another set of meal, and we just couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
That was very, very challenging. Food was such a big challenge. Oh God, such a big challenge.
I learned that too when I did conversations, and I didn't think it was going to be a challenge, but it's definitely up there.
But we did enjoy your pizza, Keith. We did enjoy the pizza.
The goal is to not feed people pizza. So you talked about communication. You talked a little bit about teamwork. You talked a little bit about you worked with people that were from different, had different backgrounds and such. And I always find that so interesting because you are right. When you work with people who are not from your background, you learn so much more. And they kind of fulfill parts of your talents with whatever you're missing. You know, you kind of like fill in for each other's roles. Can you talk more, or I guess elaborate more on like what that was for you when you worked with these women?
Okay, so a lot.
I know these are heavy questions.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, we cried. uh, we fought. uh, we cried, we fought, we laughed, we sort of, as women, I feel like we were able to explore all the emotions unabashedly.
Mhm.
so when we were able to raise the money for our Kickstarter, and we were able to do it right within timeline, and you know how Kickstarter works, right? You get all or nothing, so that sort of a thing. And when we raised that, I was on phone with my producer, and we both broke down because there was so much pressure building up, and we wanted to, get the particular amount of money in this particular amount of time. And then right the moment it hit that number, we were on phone, and we were just, waiting, and we were like, okay, last $70 left, and I think somebody did it. And then we just broke down, and we were laughing, but we were crying. So I think that's one of the very few precious moments in my life. I always cherish that, because it was sheer joy of hard work and dedication. I feel like even if it wasn't much, even if that's why I feel like with the Christmas party, I feel like I've accomplished so many little things in life, that even if as a whole, even if Christmas party, if even if it isn't as big of a success as I want it to be, I feel like I feel content. I feel very accomplished with what I've achieved in terms of uh, my relationships with people, my relationship with actors, and all of how I've transformed, how I've emerged out of the whole process with all of those experiences and all of those stories and all of those anecdotes, and uh, everything, through tears and through laughters and through bad takes and really great takes, and no food or uh, uh, everything, or large U-Haul trucks full of furniture and props and equipment. It was all uh, very wholesome. So yeah, so that was there. Then there was this time, I think there were uh, a few miscommunications that were happening between a few crew members, and then uh, i I put the shoot at a halt uh, midday, and I just took the individuals out aside, and I just spoke with them, and I was like, we are all doing this together, and it's for all of us. And that's again going back to how communication is so important, because then I had to maintain my calm. I had to uh, because we were extremely tight on timeline, extremely tight. Like, had we exceeded another hour, or we couldn't afford to book the location for another day. So I really, getting the whole coverage was my main goal. So I was extremely tensed about getting the entire coverage, but I still took like an hour's break with these crew members, and I just made sure that everything, because the most important thing for me was for everybody to have a very calm, a very uh, uh, good time. We are all in this profession because of our passion. We could have been, I don't know, engineers or uh, whatever, accountants or bankers, or I don't know, whatever, teachers. but we are in this profession just because we have such love for this passion. We want to all create films, we want to all create visual stuff that enthralls everybody, the audience, all of those bankers and engineers and CAs. So it was the most important thing to me, that it's very important to have fun while you're doing it. Otherwise, then there's no point. Otherwise, I'd rather not do it. I'd rather not have an extra with a stained tie and show that it's a dull party. It's a boring party.
So you're
So,
my sixth person, or seventh because of the last interview, it was between two people. But in terms of interviews, you're my sixth person that I've interviewed. And one thing that I've noticed in these interviews, and interviewing like all of you guys, is that one, or I guess two things that pop up the most are collaboration and enjoying the process.
hmm
And I've noticed that like that's a very like common theme. Hold on, my audio's kind of crapping out. Yeah. I noticed that that's a very common theme of collaboration is key in order to
hmm
in order to create um something with good content. I don't want to say perfection, or like you're trying to create something perfect or get a perfect end product. It's more about like driving the story, and the only way you can do that was through collaboration. And the second thing is enjoying the process. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? And it's funny that you mentioned that, is because my last interview, I was speaking to Laura and Ashley, who did they have a company called Party Club Productions, and Ashley said
Okay.
the same exact thing.
Really?
And
Wow.
enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it?
Right.
I'm not quoting her like word for word, but she did say something along those lines. And you're saying the same exact thing, and it's like
Amazing.
it's just I don't know. Like all these interviews are just kind of at the end of the
Amazing.
day, it's like those two things are just so important.
I
Um,
think that's
I,
why we need to
I
have.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say like as artists, you know, we're all artists, and I think it's a very important message of like everything that you're saying is so important, because I think there's this weird drive, you know, maybe I guess in the past about staying stuck on your individuality and to be ahead of the next person and so on and so forth, which yeah, you kind of need that, but at the same time, like you can't I think competition also can kind of competition as human beings can also bring you down, and it can also make you a bit more closed-minded as well.
Yeah,
Whereas you're talking
definitely.
about this process and it's like I'm not hearing like your ego coming about. It's like I'm hearing you talk about like this whole process among other people and how all of you drove this story together to get to this place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was also gonna second you on this and say that that's also I've grown up to understand. You know, when we were kids, we were told that girls can't be friends, or they're always gonna be mean to each other. And honestly, I still collaborate with women, and I feel like that bond is very. It's like holding each other together. It's like, the power of sisterhood, the power of um, women helping each other is just so much more. And I think it was just a stupid theory which was constructed by men to pit us against each other.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Is all pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the kind of the kind of inspiration or the kind of support that I get from my girlfriends or my female collaborators or whoever, it's just so empowering, and it's like, you go girl, and we're like, yeah, you go girl. It's just so nice.
Yeah, I was taught that if you're the type of girl that doesn't have girlfriends but you hang out with the guys, like you're the cooler girl, you're the cool chick.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah,
strong,
yeah.
you're powerful, and you're independent, blah blah blah. But which I think is such BS, because I'm 30 right now, and like I've learned that I love working with women. I really do. I love working with women, and I love collaborating with women, and also I love being near women who are who hold their own grounds and also create their own life and their own work. Because also growing up, like we were taught that like women who were empowered and like powerful, they're kind of seen as competition, like we can't be friends with them or whatnot, you know. But I'm the complete opposite of that. Like I love being near women who are like that.
Right.
Because you're right, it is empowering. And I think like I'm gonna go off like real deep here. Like I think women do create some sort of magic that people don't understand. Hearing you talk about the Christmas party, I can hear that magic, you know. Like I haven't seen the film, but I can already tell, like I can imagine the power that like you guys have created amongst yourself without even realizing, because there is something about female energy that's very strong and very deep and very moving that I don't think people either they don't understand, they're too afraid to understand. But I think in filmmaking it's really important to have that. And you know, I'm sure that you guys created an environment that was unlike something you've ever experienced, because hearing you talk about that, I feel like I'm experiencing something that I'm like, it sounds so like magical. You know, like I really would love to see the film, and like I would love to like just experience that. So yeah, I mean, I really love that. I think it's so great that you got to experience working with those women. And you know, again, circling back to the fact that you guys created a film about not even just a female driven story about a female voice, you guys did the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know, which I also think is very powerful, because it just goes to show what you can do. It's not about, you know, staying within your means. I'm putting air quotes as if you can see me. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I just kind of went off on a
I mean, people have always seen us women together creating witchcraft, but they don't really know that it's actually magic. They're too scared
Witchcraft is
to.
good. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. It's not a bad thing.
they're too scared, so they tend to associate a negative connotation with it. But it's all magic. It's sheer magic.
Yeah, sheer magic. I love that. I guess I had one more question for you about this production. I guess after, because now it's in film festivals and whatnot. The film's in film festivals right now. Is there like is there a future for the Christmas party, or is there a future for you guys to work together again, or like what's next after the Christmas party?
All right. So I think distribution wise, I'm gonna probably put it onto in talks with some OTT platforms about getting it onto the platform. So let's see. It's the options for limited for a short are limited. So as opposed to a feature or a web series, there are only a handful of mediums that support short films. So I've been looking into that. It's just a very tiresome process as well. About us working together, I don't really know. I really wish to work with my camera department, definitely. But a lot of them are in China or in various parts of the States, like shoes in China. And even my Steadicam op is in China. So I don't really know when there's going to be a time for us to create something together. Although we did want to work on something in New York back when I was in New York, on like music video of some sorts, but that couldn't happen. So
I guess it's hard to answer because COVID days is it's hard to predict the future.
Yeah. I thought about doing I thought about doing an anthology series, and I thought about doing. I felt like I did the Christmas party in the States, and I thought of doing the Diwali party in India.
Oh.
So I really wanted to develop on something like that, and probably I'm probably gonna sit down with you, Kish, virtually and work on this one.
You piqued my interest.
Yeah, because I just thought that even if we take the same core concept of the moral conflict, but there it was in a white elite setting. Here it could be in a semi-urban uh, setting. So I always just thought that it's gonna be so interesting for me to explore the same idea, the same moral internal conflict, but in a completely different setting. So I thought about it. I've thought about it. Maybe we'd get to work on that soon.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I feel like that concept can work in almost any culture or
Yeah.
socio background or anything like that.
I mean, these are the kind of topics like I want to do a conversations bit with you next. I want to do one about conversations in the apartment uh, bit with you because I just feel like deliberating all of these questions and ideas and topics and everything, it just makes us realize while answering them so much more. And then I just really like that very process of immersing ourselves in this conversation. It's just so amazing.
Yeah, conversations, it hasn't really, I didn't really put it anywhere. I put it on YouTube and I also put it in a few film festivals, but since I moved, I didn't have funds to push the series any further, unfortunately, which is, I feel two things about that. Like, I feel very down about it because I think to myself, well, I made such a big production and like it's not going anywhere. But then the other part of me is like, that was my first production I've ever done on my own.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about it that I don't feel like I have to push. It's more about like, how can I take what I've learned from conversations into the next thing? Because I've learned, it's crazy. It's funny because Frank asked me for this podcast. He's like, I think you should have someone interview you for conversations. And I was like, that's a loaded interview. I don't know about that. Because one thing I've learned about conversations, it's so funny because like I naively went into the production of conversations. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to produce. I didn't know how to do a schedule. I didn't know how to make a call sheet. I didn't know how to do auditions, hold auditions. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do location scouting. Like, and it's funny because I think when production happened, I think people came to me thinking that I already knew what I was doing, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing. It was such a crazy production because like I started it back in 2016 and I filmed it twice. I filmed the first episode twice and it failed, and I changed the cast and crew so many times, and by the time 2018 came about, that's when I solidified it, and I moved forward with the production. But it was the biggest eye-opener for me, and I learned every little detail about a production. And it's funny because like I don't know if you could agree with me with this, but I remember trying to read so many articles and books about like how to run a production, and at the end of the day, doing it was a completely different experience.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
there should not be any books or articles about how to run a production. It's more about just fucking do the thing.
Somebody should just throw you in the production, and then you'll emerge out of it.
Yeah.
As a producer.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny because like I went through conversations. I was so incredibly insecure doing it. Like, I don't know if anybody knew, but like I was heavily insecure. Like, I was so self-conscious. I was worried about everything. I was anxious all the time. And then like coming out of it, I'm like, why did I do that to myself? That was so unnecessary. But the good thing about it, and I don't know if you feel this way as a director, like each time you direct something, but like I think coming out of conversations, I felt more confident to do, I can do this, this, and this. As an actor, as a writer, as this and that, whatever. It's like I don't feel the need to question myself. It's just more about just do the process and take what you learn from it and just develop on it, and that's it.
Yeah, I also feel like you have to feel it in your skin. Like you could have had such strong pre-production for any project, for any particular project, or you would have read n number of articles on how to run a production really smoothly. So you could have done those things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to that adrenaline, that rush that you get on the day of, like on the day of the production, when people are asking questions. Okay, where do you want me to keep these apple boxes, or where do you want to station the video village, or where do you want to set up the crafty, as stupid, something as stupid as that.
Yeah.
And when in that moment you have to take that decision of okay, I'm gonna set the crafty there, and this thing here, and this thing goes there, and go talk to the AD, don't talk to me. All of those questions, all of those decisions that you make, and all of that environment that you take in, and which sort of um, that you feel around you, that air, that all of those little noises, those chatters, those camera setting up, actors and everything, all of that is makes you grow
Yeah.
manifold, so much. So I think that's that is the thing that makes you grow in production.
I think also staying present and staying humble
Definitely.
is so important, because I've dealt, I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with this too, but I've dealt with so many egotistical personalities, which was always interesting to me because it held back a lot of things. And I never took it personally, but I did deal with certain people on conversations who had very negative energy towards the production itself. And it was kind of hard for me to balance that, because I was never the type of person to be like, well, the reason why this is happening is because I don't have money, like I never did that, because it would take me forever to just explain why the production was running on a skeleton crew. And
Yeah.
in a moment in time, like I couldn't waste time explaining why certain things were run a certain way. So there are definitely a few people that I worked with who had negative feedback towards my production during production. And it's interesting to me because I feel as if, like, if something is going wrong or something isn't working right in the moment, how important is it? Is it important just to you because you have to show off your personality to the whole world of how great you are? Or is it important to the production that something needs to change right now and it'll make it better? How
Right.
productive is it? And like that's something
Right.
that I've learned as well, is like, yes, being present and humble, like in the moment on production, because you're only working with like 10 hours a day or 8 hours or whatever, how many hours you're working with. But like, how useful is it in the moment? And I think a lot of there are a few personalities I dealt with where it was more important to them because their ego was running so big.
Right.
It's like, you got to keep your ego in check, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not helping anybody.
Right.
So that's
Right.
something that I've learned too, is like, I think one thing I've learned the most with production as well is just or I guess with conversations is dealing with people.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't expecting that, because I wasn't really thinking about it. It was more like, oh, I got to make sure that the location's set, and we're gonna get through these scenes, and we're gonna get through the shot and that shot, blah blah blah. And these props are gonna be there, blah, like lighting, whatever. The DP knows what he's doing, so whatever, I'll let him do his thing. But at the end of the day, it was really dealing with personalities, people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also very tricky, because you could be the best of friends while you're discussing the project and you're brainstorming, and you're like, yeah, we'll do this and we'll do this, and it'll be so cool, and yay, high five, we're gonna do this. And on the day off, it's gonna be, you guys are gonna be polar opposites. So it's very tricky. So that's why it's a blessing if you find the right kind of people to work with, honestly. And that's the reason why we see a lot of directors and DPs working together for years and years and years, because to have that sort of an understanding that flows so seamlessly is of utmost importance. It's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's one thing I've also learned with them, because conversations, the way it started was was working with friends. You know, like we're working together, we're friends, or we get along, blah blah blah, and that backfired so badly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you can't be friends with the people you work with, but like I think if you put that first, it does backfire. And I think the first two times that I shot the first episode for the web series, it was that kind of like that reproach, like, oh, we're friends, we're hanging out, we're doing this cool thing together, blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and like, you know, and I think sometimes like even women fall into that too, like, oh, we're good friends, like we're hanging out, we're having a good time, we're supportive of each other, like we got each other's backs, but then the production itself was falling apart because, or the quality of it was really low
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that didn't come first. And that's something that was like a hard truth that I had to face. And I also had to cut a lot of relationships because of
Yeah, it's so hurtful because
that.
eventually when you go back home after the production is ended, you're like, really, I thought we were friends. Why why couldn't it work out? Because we want to be best of friends on set too, but it doesn't really happen. Doesn't really happen that way. But
Yeah.
then we feel hurt. So I think it's very important to keep the emotions aside. And like you said, be humble, be nice to each and everybody. But you have to really be you can't really uh, how we say no hard feelings. You have to be that. You have to put on those no
Yeah.
hard feeling guards.
Yeah.
And
I failed at that in the very beginning of the production because I was trying to be like the all nice person, the nice boss, the nice leader. I was trying to be too nice, and I didn't want to be hated and things like that. And that also backfired too because once you let people go, like they have a distaste towards you, and I had to learn that was okay. But in the beginning, I remember I had to like let go of two people on the phone, and I had to rehearse that conversation with a friend of mine over and over again because I was so scared of calling these two people. One of the actresses that I worked with in the past, she was my co-star. She was supposed to be Sammy, and she was also producing and doing a bunch of other things. And the other woman was a director. And so I didn't want to email them, be like, I'm letting you go, because I thought that was rude. So I'm like, okay, I have to call them. I have to call them and tell them that I'm letting them go. And it took a lot out of me to put my emotions aside because we put friendship first, or our relationship first. You know what I mean? Like it became like that became more of an importance.
how
And
could you do this to me?
yeah, and they're, I mean, I can hear it in their voices. They were not happy. They were trying to be nice to me too, but they were not happy with it.
Mhm.
And that was really, 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 really hard. But it was also such a good experience to go through because I had to realize that like as when you're leading a production, like you have to be the bad guy too. And at the end of the day, it's like the production comes first. And if people do take it hard, that's kind of on them.
Yeah,
No offense, but it's
absolutely.
like, you know, like for example, there's this one woman who did you meet Ashley, the director Ashley?
Yeah. I was on a. I initially came in as a DP,
You worked with
and we
her?
spoke
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you worked with her. Yeah, I forgot for a moment. I actually let her go in the beginning of the production, like 2 years prior. But the reason why I like rehired her again is because she had like her character, she has such a strong character. Like she was not offended by being let go. And the reason why I had let her go in the beginning of the project was because I think she was dealing with so many other projects that like when she was with us, I think she was still the other projects were still in her head, you know what I mean? Like she was dealing with a lot. So I let her go, and she actually didn't take it personally at all. And you know, she was still talking to me, and she was still very kind and very like very respectful. And I just thought, wow, like this person has a really strong backbone, and she is not putting her ego in front of anything.
Right.
I
Right.
really admire that of her, and she was not offended that like that I let her go at all. And I rehired her, and like at that point, like she was not juggling so much, so she was able to focus on the web series, which was great. And like I had a great time working with her, but like her and I still have a good relationship. And it's like people like that is like people that you want to hold on to, you know?
Yeah.
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 I don't know where I was going with that either. I just I guess the difference
once
is the
we start
personality.
talking about a project, yeah. Once we start just talking about a project, we just, because we've invested so much of our times and energies onto this that it's only very gratifying to keep talking about it and keep analyzing it and sort of, you know, having something come out of it. So it's just, I know.
Yeah, I mean, because the interesting thing about filmmaking is that every project's different.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to like, I don't know, it's hard to like talk about it as if it's like you're not doing the same job over and over again, you know, like essentially you may have the same title, but every project is so different. You know, like I've done like as an actor, like I've worked in like short films and stuff, and even as an actor, like you're dealing with different directors, different DPs, different actors.
Yeah.
So it's like it's always different every time, which makes it very interesting. I think that's why there's always like this sort of high, you know, because it's something new each time.
Yeah, and you're thinking at such a high rate. You're like constantly thinking and adapting, and it's just very exhausting by the end of the day.
Yeah, but in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way, in a gratifying way. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Shivangi Jain of The Christmas Party. Don't forget to follow the Dark Brown channel for future episodes on the Every Shade podcast.